the treatment's done.
Yes.
So I can crack on and get back to work again, but actually the phase afterwards is really, is really difficult.
They said it was a straightforward protocol choice. When reporters inquired as to why Princess Charlotte, beloved by the people, revered by the late Queen Elizabeth, and third in line to the throne, was abruptly removed from the royal supper guest list, the palace spokesman responded, "There's no warning, there's no explanation, just left." Behind the marble walls of Windsor, those who know the game of crowns knew right away. This wasn't about age, decorum, or duty. It was a message. It had Queen Camilla's fingerprints all on it. For weeks, plans had been made for the spectacular state banquet, which would bring together diplomats, dignitaries, and carefully picked royals to represent continuity and unity under King Charles's rule. Charlotte, who was always calm and sophisticated beyond her years, had allegedly been thrilled with her part. Tailors were fitting her garment. Protocol workers were preparing her place next to her father. It was going to be the little princess's coming-of-age moment, until suddenly it wasn't. The decision landed like a thunderclap. Charlotte's name disappeared from the attendance list. Her seat had been struck. Palace employees were advised not to discuss her at all. Even her name was removed from the briefing papers. When a senior assistant inquired discreetly why, the response was harsh and final. Her Majesty prefers a streamlined event. Her Majesty, meaning Camilla. It was more than just a snub. It was a deliberate attack in the monarchy's ongoing silent war, a battle conducted without swords or speeches, but rather with etiquette, guest lists, and royal appearances. And this time, the target wasn't Catherine or Prince William, but a youngster. But Camilla had miscalculated one thing. Catherine would not let this go. Not this time. Not when her kid was being used as collateral in a power war she had not requested to be a part of. Because when Charlotte was eliminated from the palace table, Catherine made her own decision. She would not boycott the supper. She refused to throw a tantrum. She would turn up and accomplish something the crown had not expected. She would shut Camilla down, with elegance, with fire, and with the entire world watching. And by the conclusion of the supper, they weren't talking about Camilla. The mother went in alone, causing the crown to blink first. Windsor Castle had never been more magnificent. The red carpets were stretched out, the chandeliers sparkled like frozen pyrotechnics, and the guest list read like a worldwide who's who of nobility, diplomacy, and media power. This was more than simply a supper. It was a show, a meticulously produced performance aimed at reinforcing King Charles's image as a uniting ruler in the midst of a world in turmoil. Nonetheless, the most anticipated appearance of the evening was someone who had never entered the venue. Princess Charlotte was scheduled to be present. Insiders had been whispering for weeks that the king intended to highlight the younger generation of royals, particularly Charlotte, whose grace and poise had already drawn parallels to Queen Elizabeth and her grandmother, Princess Diana. At the age of 9, she conducted herself with a level of maturity that captivated the audience. Just months before, she had attended a diplomatic banquet with her mother and brother, where she was praised for her posture, eye contact, and poise. Many anticipated that this meal would be her next silent debut, a symbolic gesture to the future queen in the works. Everything was in motion. Her name appeared on the internal seating charts. Her gown had been commissioned. Catherine had even discussed with aides the significance of allowing Charlotte to see how the institution works from within. However, 3 days before the feast, the unimaginable occurred. Charlotte was eliminated. The official rationale, given with tight grins and even tighter press briefings, was that she was not of senior enough rank and that it would set a difficult precedent. However, the hypocrisy was obvious. Only a few months before, Prince George had attended a similarly formal affair. Even younger royal offspring were present at official functions throughout Elizabeth's reign. The rules were not just altering, they were being rewritten. This is just for one child. According to a high-ranking courtier, King Charles did not initiate the alteration. They said the instruction came directly from Camilla's office. She was quite firm, the person explained. Her Majesty wanted the evening to be centered on the current reign rather than future successors. She viewed it as a diplomatic stage, not a family picnic, and she made it clear Charlotte's attendance was unacceptable. However, many in the palace did not accept that explanation. "She's threatened by Charlotte," a former assistant told a journalist on condition of anonymity. "You can't say that in public, but everyone knows it. Charlotte is adored. She is Diana's spirit revived. That type of innate magnetism cannot be taught or controlled." Camilla has spent decades attempting to convince the public to forget Diana. Charlotte is a living reminder that she never will. Furthermore, this was not the first time Queen Camilla reportedly prevented Charlotte from attending important public events. Earlier this year, Camilla's team was accused of lobbying to exclude the young princess from a major charity event, claiming she would steal focus. While that claim was quietly dismissed as rumor, this banquet provided the first concrete evidence that decisions were being made to dim Charlotte's light. Catherine received the message clearly. This was more than just one supper. That was a warning shot, an intentional endeavor to re-establish control over who has visibility and favor in the royal family. Behind palace doors, the tension was approaching a fever pitch. Catherine had spent many years towing the line. However, when they arrived for her daughter, that line vanished. Because no matter how many crowns adorned Camilla's head, she had just done the impossible. She made a youngster a victim of royal politics, and Catherine was not about to let her get away with it. Catherine's expression allegedly changed when she learned the news. The Princess of Wales, calm and serene, had spent almost a decade perfecting the royal art of restraint, knowing when to speak, when to lower her head, and when to accept insults with a smile. This time, though, things were different. This time, it was not about her. It was about her daughter. According to palace sources, the warning arrived from a top assistant just after a last practice walkthrough. The statements were clear. Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte will no longer be attending the banquet, per new protocol clarification issued by Queen Camilla's private office. There was no discussion, there's no warning, just a rejection disguised as politeness. Catherine did not raise her voice. She did not weep. However, some who observed the incident claim her quiet was louder than any outcry. She put the papers down, took a deep breath. Then, with her typical elegance and conviction, she simply stated, "This is not about procedure. This is personal." Within minutes, she had invited her own senior aides for a private meeting. The door was closed. There was no personnel permitted in. However, one close colleague reported hearing the words spite, jealousy, and Diana clearly from within. She was livid, the insider said, but not in a reckless manner. Catherine is strategic. When she's upset, it's the quiet anger that makes others uneasy. You could feel it in the air. Something had broken. Later that evening, Catherine allegedly called her husband, Prince William, who was abroad on official business. He was believed to be enraged, but he persuaded his wife to remain calm in order to avoid giving Camilla the reaction she desired. Catherine, ever the strategist, agreed, but only after giving a very clear signal. The following morning, personnel discovered something peculiar. Charlotte's formal clothing had not been returned to the wardrobe archive. It was still hanging in her chamber, ironed and prepared. Catherine had made no arrangements for cancellation. In truth, she had told Charlotte nothing at all. She refused to let her daughter feel rejected, one nanny explained. Charlotte assumed she was still going. Catherine shielded her from the politicians. That is the type of mother she is. But Catherine was also a princess, and she realized what this meant. It wasn't simply a 9-year-old being ostracized. It was all about control. Camilla drew a line in the sand, and now everyone was waiting to see what Catherine would do. Behind closed doors, she made her decision. She wouldn't face Camilla directly, yet. That would just generate headlines. Instead, she would attack where it counted most, in public. Camilla wanted to shine that night. Catherine did more than just respond as a mother at that moment. She moved like a queen in waiting, safeguarding not just her kid, but also the future of the crown. To understand why Queen Camilla would pick out a child, a 9-year-old girl revered throughout the Commonwealth, you must first comprehend the shadow she has been living in for nearly 4 decades. A shadow with feathery hair, doe eyes, and the sad grace of a lady who did not require a title to be royalty. Diana is the shadow, you see. Camilla Parker Bowles became the royal villain in a public drama that still haunts the monarchy after being exposed as the other woman in Charles and Diana's marriage collapse. She was not merely hated, she was detested, booed in public. The press has vilified him. Even Queen Elizabeth reportedly held Camilla at arm's length for years, unwilling to consider the possibility of Camilla ever becoming queen. And yet, here she is, wearing the crown, holding court, issuing orders. But power does not eliminate resentment. It hides it. Camilla understands that no matter how many tiaras she wears or how many organizations she promotes, she can never replace Diana in the hearts of the people. Even more tragically, she now faces a live, breathing reminder of her legacy, Princess Charlotte. The likeness is tough to miss. Charlotte's eyes, her posture. She conducts herself with a blend of assurance and gentleness. She's a Windsor by birth, but a Spencer in soul. Every time the press compliments her on her maturity or composure, it's a silent reminder of Diana. Camilla has no influence over this matter. Inside the palace, reports have long circulated that Camilla considers Charlotte to be too visible. She has encouraged Charles' aides to slow the spotlight on the little princess, particularly following Charlotte's tremendous popularity during the late Queen's burial rituals. Photos of her solemn look while standing by her mother in black went viral, overshadowing even senior royals. According to royal officials, this may have been the moment Camilla's patience snapped. She's fought for years to be accepted, and just when she starts to feel settled, along comes this child who captures the public like Diana did, according to one source. It isn't reasonable, but in Camilla's world, it's very personal. Charlotte's removal from the luncheon was motivated by a desire to recapture the limelight, not by age or manners. A power maneuver disguised as etiquette, one meant to remind everyone who now sets the rules. However, Camilla made a fatal error. She had forgotten what the public saw when they looked at Charlotte, not simply a royal offspring, but a symbol, Diana's resilient spirit, of a future monarchy that seems more authentic, more loved than anything the current rule can create. Camilla may wear the crown, but she's still running from a ghost. That ghost is now walking in tiny shoes, with her mother anxiously observing. This time, she is haunted by more than simply Diana's memories. It is her legacy reborn, this time with a front row seat at the royal table, which Camilla attempted to take away. Camilla was supposed to triumph that evening at the dinner. Everything was perfectly choreographed, gleaming cutlery, crystal goblets polished to a mirror brilliance, and a press gallery set up to catch her every elegant motion alongside King Charles. This was her moment, her comment on stability, her carefully cultivated appearance of dominance. But no one expected the sound of gentle heels approaching the hall. Catherine walked in alone. She wasn't scheduled. Her name was not on the final release. The palace had purposefully concealed her arrival, probably expecting her to remain away following the insult to her daughter. However, those in the room report that the air changed the moment she came. The conversations came to a standstill. Heads turned. Even the photographers dropped their cameras, taken aback by her silent presence. She was not there to grin. Catherine's appearance, dressed in a sleek midnight blue gown and a sapphire brooch previously owned by Diana, was more than simply a show of defiance. It was also a reminder of who the populace thought was at the core of the monarchy. A reminder that palace formality cannot pacify a mother's rage. Most importantly, it serves as a warning that Catherine, Princess of Wales, should not be overlooked. She floated into the hall, her countenance inscrutable and her spine unbelievably straight. She was not accompanied. She did not need to be. She moved as if she already had the crown on her head, not by title, but by command of respect. She suddenly came to a halt, just next to Camilla. What they spoke to each other was not officially recorded. However, eyewitnesses described the exchange as brief, deliberate, and devastating. According to a senior insider, Catherine leaned in slightly and murmured, "You may wear the crown tonight, but my daughter is the future. Try not to forget it." Camilla's face apparently froze. Her smile dipped ever so little. For the first time that evening, she appeared hesitant. Charles tried to break the stillness, but even he couldn't conceal his uneasiness. The cameras may have recorded his false grin, but those within the room knew the truth. He was seeing the Queen be silenced without a word said above a whisper. Catherine's actions at that moment were not only personal, but also significant. She did not bring Charlotte with her. She did not directly dispute the regulations. Her absence spoke volumes. And then, with a single glance and comment, she recovered the dignity Camilla had attempted to take away from her daughter. The press would later try to spin it as a surprise appearance, a reconciliation in progress, but those in the know saw it for what it was, a power transfer, not via scandal or revolt, but through mere presence. By the time dessert was delivered, the evening's conversation had moved on from Camilla's speech and Charles' toast. It was about a lady who showed up unexpectedly, stood her position, and made every camera in the room turn without ever raising her voice. Because when Catherine entered, everything changed. And the Queen, who believed she had won the night, she softly recognized she had already lost. The supper may have concluded with polished silverware and polite smiles, but the real feast had only begun behind palace walls, fueled by stress, denial, and silent terror. By morning, the royal family had lost control of the headlines. Kate's surprise banquet appearance overshadows Queen Camilla. Princess Charlotte's mysterious absence sparks outrage. The crown's new divide, Catherine or Camilla. King Charles awakened to a storm he had not expected. In his opinion, the meal had gone well. Camilla had been a kind host. Foreign dignitaries applauded warmly. But what he didn't expect, and no one on his staff had anticipated, was the public's outrage at Charlotte's absence and Catherine's calm, controlling presence. It was a public relations disaster, and he was caught in the midst of it. According to sources, Charles spent the next morning in back-to-back meetings with communications experts, seeking to manage what one aide characterized as a household fracture gone viral. At the heart of the situation was a question he couldn't answer without repercussions. Who actually rules the show today, Camilla or Catherine? Internally, there were efforts to minimize the situation. Press officers released a bland statement stating Charlotte's absence was in keeping with long-standing royal protocol for minors, but the internet wasn't buying it. Twitter exploded with side-by-side comparisons of Charlotte and George at previous royal functions, highlighting the discrepancy. The hashtag #LetCharlotteBeRoyal exploded into global popularity. Not only did the general people take note, donors, charity patrons, and even old royal friends began to express their concerns, politely but loudly. One leaked correspondence from a prominent UK organization stated, "The optics of the Queen Consort's treatment of the Princess of Wales and her daughter are harmful. We sincerely recommend course adjustment." Charles was cornered. If he protected Camilla, he risked alienating the younger generation, the very people his rule was intended to bring back. But if he openly supported Catherine, he would be undercutting the lady he worked so hard to legitimize. In private, he contacted William in the hopes of brokering peace. But according to sources, the conversation did not proceed as planned. William did not explode. He did not threaten. But his message was quite clear. "I put my family first, always. Charlotte will not be sidelined to appease anyone's anxieties." Camilla, however, remained mute. Her staff canceled a scheduled event due to schedule adjustments. She was allegedly upset behind closed doors, not just with Catherine, but also with Charles. Some think she expected him to make a stronger argument and confirm her power. Instead, she received ambiguous comments and awkward silences. "She felt betrayed," claimed a former employee. "She feels she has earned her spot." But then Catherine steps in and everyone forgets who hosted the feast. That's her nightmare, being invisible again. But the horror was already happening. In the course of one night, the carefully crafted image of a unified royal front had crumbled, and Charles, the guy who was supposed to keep it all together, found himself trapped between the lady who holds the crown and the woman the public already refers to as Queen. Two kingdoms, one throne. A youngster is at the core of it all. Charlotte never even entered that room. However, she left it altered, forever. She never talked, she never appeared. Nonetheless, Princess Charlotte altered the course of a royal evening, upended a carefully choreographed narrative, and exposed a schism that the crown frantically sought to conceal. It was not about getting a seat at the dinner. It was about something far deeper: prominence, legitimacy, and legacy. In Charlotte, the public sees more than just a youngster. They watch Diana's fervor, Elizabeth's stability, and Catherine's calm strength converge into a single, unwavering future. That makes her powerful. And for those behind those royal gates, power in the hands of the next generation represents a threat that must be handled. But the attempt backfired. By omitting Charlotte, Queen Camilla not only made a statement, but also sparked a symbolic battle, one in which absence spoke louder than attendance, and one mother's decision to arrive alone shattered the image of togetherness in front of the world's cameras. King Charles now leads a country split, not by revolt, but by allegiance. The people have made their decision, and it does not lay with the current queen. Charlotte may be young, but her name is already etched in the next chapter of the monarchy, not as a passive heir, but as the child who reminded a centuries-old institution that no one, not even a queen, can erase what the nation has already decided to cherish. And once again, love has discovered its crown, not on Camilla's head, but in Charlotte's grin. Quiet, dignified, and unmistakable, the royal balance has altered, and the youngest Windsor has touched the scales.